Hey guys, Professor Stick here. This video is going to be relatively short. All I want to do is be able to clear up some concepts of the burden of proof. I know you guys all probably know about the burden of proof already, so this video is just going to be relatively short just to reiterate what the burden of proof actually is. So without further ado, let's get to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tammy. So, one day, my friend and I were having a conversation. And then, he told me that he doesn't believe in God. Okay? I asked him why. He said, if you can't touch it or feed it, it's not there. So God is a myth.
What your friend is trying to say is that we can't properly test if God is here or not. Therefore, it's very unlikely that we'll get any results if we think about the question, is God real? We can't make a claim either way on whether or not a supernatural being exists. The main part of your friend's argument isn't on the fact that we can't see or touch God, it's on the fact that we can't experiment on the idea of it. So tell me, how do you reach a conclusion on something that you can't test? You simply can't reach a conclusion. So on the subject on whether or not a God exists, since you can't test it, you can't make a conclusion either way. This is the atheist position. We acknowledge that there are some things that we cannot test, and because we can't test them, we can't reach a conclusion. So when theists come and tell us that God exists, we atheists will take a step back and we will say, no, you cannot reach that conclusion because we are unable to test God. The honest position is to simply say we don't know for sure since we cannot do an experiment. This is the atheism position.
Can you see air? No, you can't see air and you can't touch it. So, are you telling me that air is not there?
We can actually feel air by waving your hands, and we can do a whole bunch of scientific experiments on air. We can measure the temperature, we can measure the pressure, we can measure the volume. These are all properties of gas. We know that air is there because of science, but God, not so much. There's no actual way to test God. Again, the emphasis on your friend's point isn't the fact that we can't see or touch God. It's actually the fact that we can't experiment on him.
How do you even know we breathe oxygen? That's because somebody told you, right?
I mean, it's not really just because somebody told us. It's because we can actually perform science to test that. It's been scientifically proven that we obtain our oxygen from the air and we use it for aerobic respiration. Anyone can test this, not just the scientists. See, the good thing about scientific claims is that anyone can replicate it and obtain the same results at the end.
Somebody told you that dinosaurs used to be there. What proof do you have? The only thing they got is some bones.
Yeah, we have fossils, and that tells us that dinosaurs lived millions and millions of years ago. But that's not the only thing. For example, we also study the manure of dinosaurs in order to find out what they had in their diets. But even without the other evidences, fossils itself is pretty sufficient enough to prove that dinosaurs existed.
How many times have scientists been wrong?
We've been wrong many times in the past because during those times the scientific method has not been properly established. Modern science has the burden of proof. Now, if you want to make something true, you have to be able to prove it with mountains and mountains of evidence. We don't really accept something as true until it becomes a theory or a law. A hypothesis, however, is still out there to be interpreted.
Electricity. You can't see it or touch it, but all you see is the wires and the light that electricity provides.
Similar to the air example, we can test it and we know that it's there due to some scientific methods. We can measure electricity by measuring its current, its volts, its power. These are all properties of electricity. God, on the other hand, has nothing. There are no properties we can test. There's nothing we can test to prove whether or not he exists.
There's nobody out there who can prove that God does not exist.
Okay, here's the part of the burden of proof that I wanted to get to. It's not our job to prove that your hypothesis is wrong. It's your job to prove that your hypothesis is correct. Plus, you can't even prove that God does not exist. How do you prove that some supernatural being does not exist? Example, if I claim that I had an invisible unicorn with magical powers inside my room that you cannot see or detect in any way, is it your job to prove that I'm wrong? No one's going to believe me unless I provide some evidence. That is the burden of proof, and that is one of the main things that define modern science today. Without the burden of proof, we would be in chaos like we were many, many years ago. So until you provide some proof that God exists, we are simply going to stay in the default position and say that we cannot make a claim either way. This is not to say that God does not exist. God may as well exist, but until there's proof, we're going to stay in the default position and we won't make a claim.
I know you're asking me to prove if God exists. I cannot prove either.
See, that's the problem here. If you cannot provide evidence that your claim is true, then we will simply dismiss it and then say we cannot make a claim either way. It's time for some religious people to learn about the burden of proof.
But that doesn't mean that He's not there.
Yeah, we're not claiming that God does not exist. We are simply just saying that you can't make a claim about it. You can't claim that God exists. The atheism position is simply the position in which we acknowledge you can't make a claim about a supernatural being.
Just because you do not believe in anything doesn't give you any right to attack the people who believed in it.
Yeah, but actually we do have the right to attack people who have supernatural beliefs. It's called the freedom of speech. I can say whatever I want, and you can say whatever you want too. So you can come and attack my ideas for all you want.
How do you know you're not a stupid one? I just dislike people who attack other people just because they don't believe in what they believe in.
Oh my god, can you stop moving around and just stay still for 2 seconds? You are making my head spin here.
Everybody's different. We cannot all be the same. If you cannot provide proof of anything, you are either wrong or right. You're stuck in the middle. You're just like, which way? Wrong or right? Which way? This way. You're just stuck in the middle. You're confused.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say you're kind of stuck in the middle, but that's the point. You can't make a claim on whether or not God exists, and that is the honest position to take.
And that's all that I have to say. So go ahead and attack me. Give me your best shot.
Did he just walk into a single toilet room for effect?